Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining our event today. My name is Mike Troy. I'm the Editorial Director of Progressive Grocer and Retail Leader, and I'm going to be your host for our event. We've got a great and timely topic to explore today. It's one that actually looks ahead to the holiday season and opportunities around digital engagement and online opportunities. We're going to be talking about growing online grocery, holiday meals, catering, cakes, and product bundles. There's a lot to that. It's interesting. I'm looking forward to learning myself what all of that means. The goal of our time together today is really to help you learn about expanding online grocery from products in the aisles, where obviously we've seen a ton of growth and activity, to more about services on the perimeter. For example, when you registered for this webinar, you would have seen one area we want to explore is about how do you handle the tremendous surge in orders for holiday meals on a single day, but then also support full service catering throughout the year. So the hope is you will leave this event today with ideas on growing your online business and helping service counters by moving orders online as a means to improve productivity and also product profitability. So with us today to explore this topic and provide insights are Beverly Linhoss, Food Service Systems Manager with Buehler Food Markets. Buehler is a 13-store retailer in Northern Ohio, and they're doing some interesting stuff, especially in the service areas. They've got a cool food truck. That's something that Beverly leads, and big catering business. And then also we have Brian Moyer. Brian's the founder and CEO of Freshop. Freshop's an online platform used by a lot of independent retailers. And then also joining us is Colleen Griffin-Underhill. Colleen leads Freshop's customer engagement and support teams, and she works directly with independent retailers like Buehler's. The plan for today's event is really to make this more of a conversation. There are some slides, so there'll be a little activity on the screen as we move around and show examples of things. But the goal is, like I said, conversation. We want it to be interactive as possible. On your screen, you'll see the section at the bottom where you can submit questions. Please do so as we go through. We actually already have some questions, so that's great. And then we'll get to those, as many as possible, in real time. Those that we don't get to, we can always follow up with folks later. To get us started, what we're going to do first is I'm going to hand things over to Beverly here in a minute, and Beverly's going to give us an overview on Buehler's and some of the interesting stuff they're doing, and just put some context to the conversation. And then Brian and Colleen will chime in at that point. And you'll probably hear from me here and there too, but that's kind of the plan. And then to get us started, I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to Beverly. Beverly, you want to get us going?
Absolutely. So just to give you guys a little bit of background about Buehler's, we are an independent grocer. We were founded in 1929 as a family-owned company, and we were owned by the Buehler family until 2017. At that time, we were sold to the employees, and we are now an employee-owned company, which is really exciting because that gives us the ability to explore a lot of different avenues with catering, and we have restaurants in our grocery stores, and we have a food truck, and we just have a lot of ability to grow and expand because we are owned by the employees, and it's advantageous for everyone if we continue to grow. We have 13 stores. We do have a food truck, like I mentioned. At all of our stores, we offer catering. At 10 of the 13, we do full service catering. The other 3 are mostly pickup for platters and, hot and cold foods. That's one of the big things that people get excited about with Buehler's is that we do hot and cold pickup and delivery. So you have a lot of options when it comes to your catering, and that also makes a lot that we have to organize on the back end. And when we were launching with Freshop, that was also very exciting because we had to find a way to integrate all of those different features. And I'm sure Brian and Colleen will go into that a little bit further, but we use something called Varieties to do that. And they were able to take everything that we wanted our program to be able to do and make it a reality. So it's very exciting. We did go live with Freshop last October of 2019 for catering. And in that time alone, since then, from that day to now, we have generated $132,000 in sales from the site, which with everything that 2020 has brought us, that's very exciting to us. We do holiday meals online, anything from a complete dinner to a small dinner for two, to a small combo for one person. And those can also be hot, cold, pickup, delivery. And in 2020, we're going to add curbside. So we're really excited for the things that are to come. And then just to give you an idea as well, last year, just between launching in October to Thanksgiving, we were able to generate $15,000 in sales for our online dinners for the holidays. And that was about 158 meals. So there's still a lot to come, but we have been really satisfied with the Freshops platform and what it could do for catering.
Beverly, thanks again for being on today. We really appreciate that. And I've got Colleen on as well on our team. Colleen was GM for a grocery store and managed that and did a lot of the things. And this is what we see with Freshop. We have, a single store independent like what Colleen ran before, got a lot of experience with growing out catering. And what does catering mean in a single store or in a larger enterprise like Buehler's? You have multiple stores, multiple locations, and you're saying, you're doing all those different lines of what somebody is trying to accomplish. One of the things is kind of defining what you mean by catering. And so if you hear what Beverly's talking about, it encompasses a lot of different things. And simplistically, it's all of the things that require prep based on a customer's order. So custom preparation of things. And it could be simple, like what we have here on the screen, platters, subs, and sandwiches that are being done here in this particular case at Foodtown in Metro New York City. What they're doing is providing access to people to order not only the things that they would always have in the case, the trays that are already ready to go, but also to be able to customize and do those up. But in this case, you have a 24-hour lead time because those require more work than what's in the case and is already ready to go. And then you kind of take that to the other extreme. We have, Beverly stuff here at Buehler's. As you can see, these are not just simple trays. These are full meals, the kind of stuff that you would use for a wedding, for any kind of party, business meeting, anything. So, when you say catering, it kind of covers a lot of different areas, including, cakes, holiday meals, party things, weddings, and so on. Beverly, I know that online you don't do everything, so you still have a component of the service counter where you've got more of that concierge and you're meeting with customers. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. Most of our full service events that include staffing, those are still handled in-house with a catering manager. But we have seen with everything that 2020 has brought with COVID-19, we have seen a surge in the larger online orders where, we're talking $2,000+ people are ordering and having delivered straight to maybe a church or a park. So they're having all of the components that they would have of a full service event, but they're taking us out of the equation. We're just dropping it off and leaving. And Freshop has allowed them to do that. So it's been really nice for their comfort level.
Colleen, when you were with Hart's Local Grocers, I know you guys were growing out you had a coffee bar and sandwiches and you were growing out a catering business. For a single store, how much does it help to be able to have this online where you're not having to, I know obviously the pressure in a store is always how many people do you have available to deal with people? So how did having an online option for this, how does that help for store operations and managing what you're doing in this overall catering? And where did you guys see the most success?
Yeah, thanks, Brian. So, for us, I think prepared foods really are an opportunity for an independent to set their brand aside. You can really set it apart from your competitors. You can really kind of tell your brand story with the uniqueness of your prepared foods. And then to be able to offer that to people online, to add that to their regular grocery order, that convenience is is what we saw brought people to us and tried the service out for the first time.
And that's what we like to think about is, how you break these things up. And so, as Beverly was talking about, being able to customize an item. So you have a single UPC, that's a random weight UPC, but for a lot of stores, you've got your regular items, which are just, things you have on the shelf every day. And that could even be like a boar's head, cheese and meat tray that's there. Customers build their party however they want, going all the way up to, what Buehler's is doing with weddings on, the weekend, where you got full service and you've got staff and travel and all of the management that you need to do to put on a big event like that. But in the end, anything consists of bringing all these little things together, like, getting chairs or tables to appetizers, maybe if there's a bar, all those different things come together. And so you kind of got what we see are three different ways that most stores really work. And so you have those regular items where you're including stuff that you would typically have in the store. And then you see where you have custom lead times here. So that platter in the top left has a lead time that if you add it to your cart, it pushes you out to when you can get it to whatever that restriction really comes into play. So you can do that kind of thing. And then you can do that next level where you're going to do custom items where it's still on the regular website. I can order, milk, bread, cheese, butter, chicken. Oh, and I want to get an 8-inch round cake. But now I've got options on there. And so if I add filling to it, it might have a price impact on the product. It could have lead times being enforced. And then what Beverly and her team are doing is really that full catering store. And so when you go into their experience, you're actually selecting, what do you want to see? And it starts out with, are you a regular shopper? Are you looking to do catering? Because if you're doing catering, we want to switch you over into that experience. And it might warn you that, hey, you've already got stuff in your regular cart. Are you sure you want to switch over? Because you probably don't have, chicken breast and charcoal and things available in your catering store. So making sure that you understand, the scope of how you want to communicate with the customer. Either I have all of this, it's all regular items, and I'm going to incorporate them into my everyday offering in the store, all the way to doing that full custom catering site. And that's where you can really start to take it up there. And what we've seen with Buehler's is their commitment to offering that to the customers, like having related items. So when you go in to be able to buy, a tray of food, it's common that they have another type that's available there. So if I want to get, fried chicken, I can click on additional sizes. So I can just see, there's 24 piece. Oh, wow, they have a 48 and they have a 96. That could have additional choices on there where you're getting sides and things like that. But you really want to provide, the customer that information. And I know, Beverly, when the three of us worked on this project, one of the things we were always trying to do is distill it down to figure out what's the best customer journey. How do you segment, when a customer comes to the service desk, I know you take care of them, but when they go online and they place an order, how do you bridge the gap between that full, narrative that an event manager that you have is going to help them to where they can place, like you said, a $2,000 order online where they may never even talk to you? How does you and your team bridge that gap between the digital world and the in-store experience?
That's a great question, Brian. And I think you're never going to have the exact same experience, but I think that one of the things that helps is we have been very careful to make sure that all of our items have a detailed description. So when you click on them, you can really find out exactly what you're getting on the tray. We've also tried to be very careful to make sure that we're not using stock photos. We're using photos of our actual product so that people aren't getting one thing and then the photo looked like something totally different, because we do want them to be satisfied. We've also tried to customize a lot of the language in our emails. So whenever you get that notification email that we've either received your order or we're working on your order, we try to use all of the same language that we would use if we were talking to you on the phone. We also, we watch it very closely. Some may say I even micromanage, because I have Freshop on my screen all day, every day, seeing what orders are coming in, looking to see if there are any special requests that the store might need assistance with, and then I call them and talk to them, and sometimes we call the customer if we need to get a little bit more information, because the program does allow so much customization and also notes that the customer can put to us. they love the program and they get creative. So when 2020 turned into what it has been and everybody wanted curbside pickup, that's not necessarily something we were ready for, but they went ahead and used the notes and said, actually, I'm going to need someone to bring that out to me. So it's really been fun to watch how it has evolved, and the customers have told us what they need inadvertently.
It is the communication that you get from your customers here. That's really what makes independence different, is that ability to provide that service that is, like you said, you're driving it out to people. I've always chuckle when I'll do a presentation, we'll talk about e-com, and it might be people are thinking about getting into online grocery. And this especially happened a couple of years ago where, you'd ask people how many people are in the room are doing e-commerce today for their grocery. And, half of them or whatever the number that would raise. And then how many of you take phone-in orders and deliver to shut-ins and people that are mobility challenged? Everybody does. Every grocery store has that kind of relationship with individuals where they're providing that extra level of community support, to really be part of the community and to provide things. Even if they don't have e-com, they're taking a phone order. Some of those stores really suffered during COVID-19 because they might have been doing 100 phone-in orders a day and still trying to get that out the door. Catering is something where you not only need a lot of scale, but as you said, where you're talking to people and the trust factor of being able to get this done, because most catered events they're hard stop. You have to have this at a certain time. It's a single event. I can't have out of stocks. You have to, you're making that party happen. And so, as you said, Beverly, I think, staying on top of that and is what they're expecting, right? They demand for you to curate and micromanage every step of it, because that bride, that business owner, she's at her office waiting for people to come. She's got 20 clients, 20 of her employees waiting for this big lunch to come. It's got to happen, and it's got to be with quality. So I think there's a huge opportunity for independents to really take control of catering. One of the things that we always think is kind of interesting is if you think about the ecosystem of catering for a lot of towns, people don't think of the grocery store as a caterer. You guys have built a huge practice. How many weddings would you guys do during wedding season? How many weddings do you guys typically do on a weekend?
I mean, it's incredible. We have some weekends where company-wide we could have 10 weddings. And even with COVID right now, September 12th, I think company-wide we have 6 weddings.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
That's life or death for people, right? You're changing their life on being able to get that done, and that they would trust, not a traditional caterer. But one thing that's fun is a lot of these traditional caterers, they buy from the grocery store. They're getting the products from their local store. That's where the fresh product is. And a lot of grocery stores have floral and everything. So the grocery store already is the center of that ecosystem. They have all the products. They typically have the service department to be able to get a lot of this done. And it can be as simple, like you said, of holiday meals or sandwiches to getting those done. And then also bakery and cake departments. How much do you guys leverage on the cake side of things for online ordering and supporting customers there with the bakery side?
We are just getting started. We have a cake page right now on our catering side, but we're working with Colleen and internally here as well with our marketing department. We want to expand upon it and make it more like Reese's and a little bit more options. So we haven't leveraged that nearly as much as we hope to in 2021. We have a lot of ideas, though, that we're hoping we can, turn into something more. I have noticed, though, that this year we've seen a lot more cakes being ordered, even with the limited options that we have on there. A lot of smaller cakes, actually, whereas it used to be sheet cakes, we're seeing a lot of the 8-inch double layers and the cakes that you can feed in a crowd of 10 or less, since everybody's having smaller gatherings. So we're noticing a little bit of a shift in the trend right now. So it's hard for me to give a lot of information on that because I don't think we've fully tapped into it the way that we can.
And that's great. You think about how much you guys are already doing with catering, and you still got areas that you haven't tapped into. I know one of the viewers of the webinar today asked, where is the trend in the cake category that's going? And we've seen a huge opportunity for retailers to be able to do that, especially where people want custom. People rarely just go in and grab a sheet cake and go. They want somebody to write a name on it or to be able to have characters and those kind of things. Most grocery stores have a pretty deep bench on being able to get that done, as long as you've got the timeliness to be able to get that in for somebody to use the platform to its fullest extent. And that's you start with where you're strong, right? So I remember talking to you guys. You have the concierge side, that where you're doing a consultation and you're talking that groom through their wedding and getting that whole thing done. You had that nailed, and you were already doing the platters, but it was that middle ground where people could custom order things to be able to do it is where you really focused. And then holiday meals, and we've seen you really have excellent success with being able to expand that out. The other side is on that holiday meal. But how do you handle holiday meal ordering? And is this you're ordering way ahead of time, or is it for a limited selection of products? How do you do holiday meals?
So holiday meals, they are a little intense, I will tell you that, because we will let people customize just about anything. They can start out with the bundle that we have. So, for instance, there's going to be a complete holiday meal that's a turkey dinner, and it's a cold meal. And then there's also a hot option. Then you can decide if you want it carved or if you want an oversized turkey. So the customization really, because we want people to get the same experience online that they get in store, it is endless. It's a lot to manage, but we do have, we wrote some policies and procedures last year when it went live online. So our people know that, they have to make a certain amount of copies, and they file everything, and they treat those online orders almost exactly like they would treat an order where I came in and placed it right at the deli counter or with the catering manager. And then really it's all hands on deck, because we have people coming in a week before Thanksgiving for these orders. We have people coming in on Thanksgiving, 2 days after. You'll start to see our online holiday meals go live about the second week in October. And as soon as we turn them on, the orders start coming in.
I think that's a shocker for people that, that people would come and get their Thanksgiving dinner a week in advance. But you guys do a lot of things that people don't want to deal with, or they're not good at. And they want you to do it. And that could be, from as simple as, you see the herb roasted vegetables here. You have all those fresh vegetables and cutting them in the right quantity and seasoning. But then when you get into things like, full fruit trays and all the complicated prep, lasagna, and, it really, I think, opens people's minds on being able to do things. Holiday meals is something that we've seen as kind of a stunner growth. I remember the first time we did holiday meals for a banner. We did it for Thanksgiving, and they weren't planning on doing it for Christmas. They just wanted to see how it went through there. And this is a pretty good sized banner that was doing this. So they had extra staff that they hired every year for Thanksgiving to take all their phone-in orders and to get all the orders placed. And I remember Thanksgiving hit, and the day after Thanksgiving, I got 2 phone calls, and one was from the director of store ops that said, "Thanks, I had 10 people that we used to do these phone-in orders, and for the last 2 weeks, they didn't have anything to do because people placed the orders online. It was easier for them, so we used them for other things in the store." And then, of course, the second call was, "Hey, we decided, we changed our mind. We're going to do Christmas. We'll have you the new menus in 3 days, and we want to roll with Christmas." And from then on, they did every holiday had its own set there. So it's a really untapped opportunity. Some of our stores have really taken that to heart on what people are looking for. COVID-19 has obviously, especially during lockdown periods, Canada's down in Louisiana, for example, Vince and his team recognized that a lot of the restaurants were closed and people didn't have good access to hot and ready foods that they wanted to be able to do. And so they launched a whole thing of fast pass meals, 30 minutes or less, lunch only, dinner only. So people knew what they could get. And, hot bars mostly went away, and that's still in a lot of places. I think you mentioned as we were getting started for the call, I think hot bars are still shut down in Ohio.
That's correct. They are.
Yeah, so you've got customers are looking for those solutions, and grocery stores generally have that team that used to, cook all day to keep that hot bar ready. They can prep those meals, and so whether you've got heat and eat meals or you've got hot and ready to go, there's a real opportunity to pull back some of the money that had moved over the last 20 years from grocery into the restaurant side of things, and really kind of claw that back and be that. We have all this fresh produce. We have all the fresh meat. You go to any restaurant and they run out of things. It's pretty rare that a grocery store would run out of anything in catering. You have produce, you have the meats to make pretty much anything you want. And so as you start to expand in the holiday meals, quick order meals, and people being able to get things in 30 minutes or less, but that is prepared to order and really ready instead of, maybe sitting there in a heated tray, where it's not exactly what they want. And that opens up, I think, your food possibilities as well, where you're turning over, similar to a hot bar, where there's some products, you can't just put it in a cold case. It's difficult to heat, or you can't put it all together. But as you start looking at people that are buying it for immediate consumption, it opens up your catalog quite a bit to the kinds of things you would have in a hot bar, but that you can prepare efficiently for customers. So we definitely recommend that people think about it as much bigger than catering, thinking platters and trays. So where do you guys see, where's your area in the rest of, you've got the holidays coming up and the rest of 2020, and we're seeing where COVID's going. Where do you see yourself taking your catering over the next, for the rest of this year, and then in the years to come? What are your priorities?
So for us, actually, we have in 2021, we have two different venues that are opening up that are going to be exclusive for us catering-wise. So our wedding business, our corporate event, all of that catering is just it's going to get really, really big, really fast, whether we're ready or not. Especially when you think about the fact that, we would have normally been doing 10 weddings a weekend this summer, and a lot of those have been moved to 2021. So I think 2021 is going to be a really big year for us. It's going to make online catering even more important, because as our people are being pulled out of the store and they're working at these full service events, there's not always going to be 24/7 phone coverage. So that's where the online comes into play, because if we can't answer the phone, we have messages that are going to, actually in the next couple of weeks, we're going to change the message on everybody's answering system in the stores to say, if you haven't reached us, please visit us online, so that we can try to get them to place even more of those after hours orders, or if we happen to be away from the office. So I think that the program is going to be even more critical for us in 2021.
One thing we talked about last year was that kind of pre-order where, a couple who's getting ready to get married maybe could go in and look at some plans and come up with the basics of what they're looking for, so that when you have that meeting, you've got more information. They can peruse and be able to look at venues and, personnel plans and those kind of things. How much do you see the ability to help you with the pre-planning for customers to be able to get that, not the whole program together, but certainly to get a jump start on that? Or do those kind of things still need to be, one-on-one, sit down in a consultation?
Some of it needs to be one-on-one still, but not all of it. I found that a lot of customers have already checked us out online before they call us. Some of them, probably never call because they go ahead and do their own ordering. But a lot of the full service events, they've already looked at our menu online. They look at the Freshop site to see, actual real photos of the food, because you can't get that from just the menu that we have on our website. And then they call us and they have an idea of what they want. So it's a very useful tool. And just to go back real quick too, to point out, we do Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Easter dinners online, and we saw almost double our Easter dinners this year, between having Freshop available and then with everything going on, with more people being at home. So it's been a really great tool for us.
So, Colleen, I want to get on to onboarding, but that does lead me to one question, Beverly, I'd like to ask you is, when you have those holiday meals and you're trying to stage a whole bunch for a really limited time, how do you deal with the stage? I know for Buehler's is very successful on regular e-commerce and groceries, and one of their constraints is where do you put the orders while you're processing them through, because they take up space. How do you deal with them with catering? Because these are things that are maybe not as easy to stack. They're big, they're heavy. Certainly they're different temperatures. How do you deal with that, with being able to have these ready for an event, either one that you're delivering to or just even for a customer to come in and pick up?
Well, in short, miracle. It's usually a miracle. So what happens is we actually, I say that, but everybody on our team would probably agree. Buehler's has a central kitchen. So at our corporate headquarters, we make a lot of our products. So we already have all of our stores are looking at what they sold last year, and they're planning ahead for what their predictions are for this year. And a lot of their products, like their mashed potatoes and their bread dressing and everything, it's going to come straight out of our central kitchen. So those people will bring in seasonal workers, and we'll have all hands on deck. There's a lot of hours that are worked getting ready for the holiday, more than your normal week. And they'll be getting everything prepped. So things get just dispatched to the stores, and every single day we're in communication from the corporate office with the stores and asking them, what are you heavy on? What are you light on? And we'll dispatch our corporate team out to move product around and make sure everyone has what they need. We will literally, if we have the product available to us, we'll take an order the day of and try to make it happen. So our motto is always say yes and figure it out later. So it's every corner of the store, anywhere you've got refrigeration is being utilized, and, anywhere you can set up shop to be putting these meals together, in a space in your kitchen that maybe is normally used for something different. But then it's also a lot of moving from store to store if someone's heavy on something and another store can use it. A lot of planning.
I think that's what makes small grocers so successful, is that willingness to do that. I remember, Foodtown was our very first customer, and when we were onboarding them, Noah Katz, who owns a section of the Foodtown stores, they were talking about putting catering on there, and they were starting out with platters. And at the time, they were doing a 4-hour lead time. So if you placed any regular grocery order at 8 a.m., you could pick it up at noon. And his team was talking about, let's do 24-hour notice for sandwiches and fruit. And he said, hold on a second. If somebody walked into the store at 7:45 this morning, we just opened, and said, I want to have a fruit tray and a sandwich plate for noon today, what would you do? Oh, we would service that. 100% of the time, somebody would just figure out a way to get those platters done for that customer. And he's like, exactly. Just put it in there and get it done and let people do that. Because if you're trying to grow that business, having it done quickly is really important. And certainly there's a lot of competition. You look at the Olive Gardens and Paneras and Chipotle, all of them are pushing hard to get into the catering business, and people are really used to those products. And so, in some ways, your grocery stores sometimes, I think, are fighting an uphill battle in trying to explain that they have catering, because for most grocery stores, catering is that little pamphlet that is sitting on top of the service counter in the deli. And and maybe they have a big cake case that shows the cool cakes that they do. But I don't think I've ever been to a grocery store that has really catering displays. They have all their prepared foods out there that can be made like that, but it's not presented like the cakes are as, hey, here's the kind of finished product that we can deliver. So I think it's really important to make sure that you're thinking about how are you going to present that content, what are you going after, and what is the customer. We're talking kind of here at the operational end of things. I'd like to step back with Colleen and talk a little bit about how people get their catering online. And I think every time, Colleen, we get that Word document or the PDF that's got the 3-page flyer or the 20-page flyer that has all the different options that somebody built 5 years ago, and it has some things crossed out because they don't do that anymore. And by the way, we also do sushi. You always run into that. Colleen, how do people bridge that gap from going from a really manual, conversational or phone-in order? How do you get that to the web?
Yeah, so it's interesting when we're first talking to retailers often during onboarding and we ask them if they do catering, they often will say no. And then as we talk about the other things that they're selling them through, they realize, well, yeah, we have platters and we do this. And it's really just about thinking about what are you already doing? And what kind of rules do you want to associate to these products that may need to be different than the grocery order? So as Brian talked about, do you need to think about lead time, or would you just be able to get this order done with the rest of the groceries that are being ordered? So, from an onboarding perspective, it's really about making sure that we, get a good grouping of products that represent what you're offering, and working with you to get good images. I mean, you can see what a great job Buehler has done with, just making sure that the products that they're showing on the site reflect what the customer actually gets. They provided all of these images, and they can easily be updated in the back end of Freshop. But then thinking about, well, what do people often buy if they're looking at this? What else will they be likely to add to their cart? So onboarding is really just a partnership, with us to make sure that you've got the right grouping of products, the right rules associated with those products, and just getting started with what you're already doing. During this COVID-19 period, we're just seeing that more and more people who never even imagined that they would shop online are now doing that, and having different types of events than they have ever considered having before. So we're really focused during that onboarding to just simplify the process so it's not as daunting. A lot of people, as we start to talk to them, realize, well, they already have photographs of these products because they did produce that brochure a couple of years ago. And so we can work with them to make that an ease of uploading those products to the site. The other really interesting thing, and I think Beverly can speak to this as well, is the tools that you can use in the back end to manage production and be prepared for what's coming up, and using the resources from the online ordering from last season maybe to prepare for the next. So Beverly, I know you guys use the tools in Freshop to manage that. Can you speak a little bit to how you use that for planning for production?
Yeah, so we are still, I will say, Colleen, we're still dabbling a little bit into using all of the resources that we have on the back end, but I do go in quite often and we'll run reports just to see, what we maybe sold last year, either at a certain store or maybe in a specific, how many were delivery, how many were pickup. So we do run some reports just to kind of get data to know where to go next, but I know that there is even more that we can do on the back end that we just are still learning and still dabbling in, because we're almost to that 1 year mark. So I think there's always more to learn.
Yeah, I think we all found that in here, that there's so much more to do. Colleen, can you talk a little bit about some of the new features that have been added for production management, like, aggregating the orders together, department printers, things like that?
Sure. So there's, as Brian mentioned, different tools now in the admin that would allow you to take a look at a batch of orders all at once. So you could group those orders together, maybe for your kitchen staff, and say, this is what you've got coming up that's already ordered for next week, especially with these holiday meals. Making those rules, like I said, so well enough in advance that you can buy appropriately and staff appropriately. So you'll be able to use tools within Freshop to do that. And then the department printer is a really great tool, as everybody that's ever picked an order understands. You don't have a lot of great options when you need to go to the deli counter. You either stand in line and take the place of a customer, or you wait around until there's not a customer, and then you have to work with the team in the deli department to get that product. Neither are good options. And so this department printer will allow the personal shopper to send basically a ticket to that department, letting them know that there's specific products from their department required for an upcoming order. And so that can be done in advance, so they can start their fulfillment process, move through the store, and then swing by the department, and that product is already ready for them. So great, huge time saver, and really will, for these catering orders, also a great opportunity to have enough advance notice for your teams and have them kind of stage these orders out and plan for them.
Yeah, so production management is something that we always talk about. I remember the first time we got a request for oven capacity. We were like, what? It's like, well, we can only cook X turkeys to be ready for this, to have them hot at this particular time. And so those are some of the things that, you know, a store would be really cognizant of, but you really need to think about from an e-commerce perspective, that you can get overwhelmed with things that you can't fulfill. And so making sure that you have good controls in place to say how many of these types of orders can be placed, how far in advance do those orders need to be placed to give yourself a fighting chance to be able to get them done, but also to maximize and make sure that you're taking care of all of your customers. So you've got that onboarding process and how you're going to get in there and you're going to place the order. When you're in there and placing those orders, Beverly, do you guys relate your items together and do you group them to kind of maximize the sale? The customers have the opportunity to see other options and to, you know, kind of to upsell or group those things together to make sure that not only they're getting everything that they want, but the store is maximizing their opportunity.
We do to a point. I mean, we have everything grouped on the site by the different categories and a few things we have appearing in multiple categories. And then I know that whenever they're placing their order, we also do the one last upsell where we say, customers also purchase these and would you be interested? So we do a little bit of that, but not a lot. I mean, there's probably opportunity to do even more, but we haven't explored that yet.
Yeah, the people who bought this is also bought that as powered by Freshop, but it has much more effect when you're looking at CPG items or things that we have. So Freshop, we kind of abstract things like family pack chicken breast. For all of our customers, we have a common way of referring across our platform to that. It's really hard with catering items because they're so custom from store to store.
Right.
You were talking about the photography of your own stuff. So we have a photo team that travels around and does photo shoots all the time. And this is one of the things that we laughed about. You know, I'm from out west, Wyoming and California, and I remember the first time I was out here and I had chicken salad here in upstate New York. And so in Rochester, chicken salad pretty much always has cut grapes in it. And, you know, the first time I had it, I was like, what? And my wife, who's from here, looked at me like I was crazy and said, that's how you make chicken salad. Those are the kinds of things where you've got to be careful on your website to make sure that you have that. Same thing with potato salad. In some places, potato salad automatically means yellow. In other places, boy, you should see the red skin of the potato in that white potato salad. I don't even want to get into barbecue and things like that on how different that is. So you can take some general things, but understanding how regional catering is and how different the items are, you do need to be careful to make sure that you properly represent what it is that you're selling, and so that a customer understands what that is. And that can be as really specific as fried chicken. We have a lot of stores that really specialize in their fried chicken. They might be famous in their area for it, and they can look at it and that's not ours. And they really want that to completely represent what they have. There's other times where, you know, like a cocktail shrimp tray, you could get away with kind of any general picture. People know it's generally shrimp round with a cocktail sauce in the middle. But as you start to get into other more complicated products where you don't want to surprise somebody on that $2,000 order when they get it and they realize this is not what they were looking for. So having good pictures, good descriptions that I know Buehler's has spent a lot of time really being able to get in there and make sure that that's getting done. Let's go to the other end of the production side of things. Beverly, how do you handle, I know click and collect is, I wouldn't say it's easy because like a lot of times catering trays don't fit well in carts and you can get stuff out of the carts, but I know you guys could hero that out there with people. How do you deal with this from a delivery perspective, both the large events, but just, you know, somebody who orders $500 of trays and drinks and things like that? How do you do this from a delivery perspective?
Well, when we set everything up with Colleen, we set up so many time slots based on what we knew the store could handle. So there was a whole spreadsheet of, you know, maybe this store has so many people, so we know that they can handle in a 30-minute period. Maybe they can handle 2 orders or they can handle 4 orders. So we customized it by every store so that nobody would get overwhelmed with more than they could handle. And then we always tell the stores as well, you know, online is not all you have coming in. So if you've got a bunch of in-person orders that you took and they're all to be delivered at 2:30 or 2:45, and then you get a few more online, we just tell them to call the customer, talk to them. People, you need that personal touch here and there anyway. It's nice for them to hear from you rather than you be late with their order. They would prefer you just to give them a call and say, actually, we have a few other orders at that same time. Can we do it here or there? Or we get really creative to make sure that everybody is satisfied. And, if someone would say no, which they don't usually, then you would call the other orders that you had. And somebody eventually will be flexible with their time. And we've not really had much of a problem with that. But those time slots that we set up in the beginning are very important.
Okay. With those time slots, when somebody places that order, how are they paying? I know with, most e-commerce, you're ordering within a week. I would imagine that a lot of these orders are well out in advance. How do you handle payments for this kind of thing?
So we can accept 3 different kinds of payments. They can pay online with a credit card. They can select pay in store if it's going to be a pickup order. So when they come in, we just handle payment like we would any other pickup order. Or we also have house charges. So if a customer, this is mostly for business customers, if they've got a house account with us, they just enter their account number and their business name. And then it's the responsibility of our catering managers to validate that information to make sure that, because they could input anything if they wanted to. So we're handling a variety of payments.
Yeah, and that's one of the things where you've got that, you guys are doing each of the different ways that somebody might really want to be able to do that. In Freshop, for example, you could assign users to groups, and then those groups might be VIP users or whatever, but they have house accounts. So you're only showing, pay with credit card, but you also want to do that for different. So maybe on a certain over $1 amount, or if they're ordering a certain distance out, that you're not trying to have them pay with a credit card, or maybe they're just doing a deposit. So there's definitely some things that you need to be able to deal with that. When a customer does pay online, how is that pick process done in the store? And then what do you do with that? So if the customer's already paid, what do they have to do? And, do they go through a lane? How does that work for the customer experience? I place a $500, catering order for later this week. And, what happens? How do you guys pick it? And then how do I know that it's ready? And what's my experience when I get to dealers?
Sure. So on the back end, we always just, as soon as an order comes in, we mark it that it's in progress and picked, usually initially, even if it's for a week later, just so they get that email acknowledging that we have their order and our team is working on it. And then we have specific instructions on the email notification that they get, and we tell everybody to come straight in and go to our courtesy desk. And at that point, they call back to catering and we bring the order out to them. And if it's already been paid for online, we'll take it out to their car, even if they'd like, or we put it in their cart and they take it out. We try to keep the way that they're handled online exactly the way that they would be handled in person. And that's how we handle our in-person catering. If you place an order, you always come straight to the courtesy desk service center, and then we come and we bring everything to you. So if you had not paid online and you had selected pay in store, we would bring everything out. We would also bring the invoice, and then you would pay right there at the service desk. So we try to keep the experience the exact same. And that's worked for us. Do
I need to come to the service desk, or is it curbside? I know for your grocery it's curbside, but when you're doing these kind of orders, are these generally done that way?
Yeah, they generally are. We are about to make curbside an option when we do the holiday dinners this year. It's not been a physical option on the website, but people put in the notes that they want to do that. So in those situations, we'll just give them, they'll usually call us whenever they're here, and then we will bring it out to them. And then really that only works if they've already prepaid. So when we do our holiday meals this year, we're going to actually have one of the varieties be, would you like this to be a curbside pickup? And then we'll have some extra text on there that just says prepayment required, so that they can call us and we take it right out to them. So we're going to get creative.
Yeah, again, that goes back to you'll do what the customer wants, but as you grow, you're trying to give them the option to say, I want curbside, or I'll come into the service desk. Because I think it's pretty common for a catering order for the customer at that last minute to pick up some things that they wanted for that order, so maybe coming into the store. Yeah, isn't that? I think delivery is becoming more and more common. where the expectation is you're going to bring it to me. They're definitely difficult orders to do that. I know when you have obviously staff on site, but as people get to larger orders, the fortunate thing is catering and these meals are generally higher margin, and so there is more opportunity for you to do free delivery on orders over X amount. Maybe have a delivery zone that's bigger than your normal grocery delivery zone. So there's some different options in there to be able to do that. When you are getting that order together, I know we're saying catering like it's one thing, but it's never just one thing, right? People are ordering, cold 2 liters and ice, but they might also be getting deli and hot foods and produce trays. And how does that get all from a production perspective, or does each of those departments have the option to be able to produce their products at their own? Like I do the cake 3 days, and I'm doing that at a different timeline. Then I'm going to cut the strawberries and bananas because those have to be at the last minute. How do you manage that production, and how do you bring it together at the end?
Yeah, so for us, it is all handled. Even though we have the entire store that we could have, we could have produce cutting fruit for us, or we could have different things happening in other departments. We actually do it all from catering. So our people will cut their own fruit for the fruit tray. And if they're getting a cake from bakery, they're responsible to put an order together and take it to bakery. We don't have all of that automated. We do it all the old-fashioned way. I think that in some ways that's a good thing, because we still have a lot of control over, the customization of the order and the quality of the order, because we're not farming it out in-house. But I'm sure some of the bigger outfits probably have to have other departments doing that prep, but we do it all through our catering staff.
Yeah, we have a lot of stores that don't really have a catering staff per se. It's really an amalgam of everything that they're doing. So they offer catering as a service, but not as a department, like you are, and they don't all have central commissary. So I think there's definitely a mix of how that's gone. But I think, again, I hear that tone of that concierge, that really making sure these are very high risk orders. And so making sure that everything is perfect. So having those double checks from production to staging to delivery, it sounds like Buehler's is really working that process to make sure that that's all being done correctly. Colleen, on the other side of catering, where you got the quick meals, and somebody asked a question about 2-piece chicken meals with sides and online shopping. I know Canada's is doing a lot of that. Good Earth Natural in Marin County in California is they have a lot of orders that are ready in 15 minutes. All their specialty soups and sandwiches and all those kind of things. What do you see, Colleen, with the customers going out from traditional catering, and their, how much movement is there towards that really quick turnaround service, where maybe it's, instead of a full catering thing for a party, it's more one person ordering ahead to be able to get themselves maybe, a specific hot lunch or things like that? Or is that starting to happen?
Yeah, we're definitely seeing more and more of that. I mean, I think I was having a conversation with a retailer that if they had a customer that the only place that they go these days is their grocery store. And so, if they can get lunch while they're doing that weekly grocery shop, there's definitely a huge convenience to that. And then there's just, I do definitely know the couple of clients that you mentioned, as well as a couple of others, that really have people using their site only for that. They're a local convenient location for them if they're, working from office and need a quick lunch or something on the way home for dinner. So yeah, we're seeing more and more retailers who used to say, well, I don't think I want to mess with that, finding that there's a need to do that, and using the varieties on the product level. It's pretty easy and painless to set up. As long as they've got the staff to do it. And I think just a realignment, as you mentioned before, of their teams allows them to meet that need.
So you've got a deli service counter who's doing, those chicken meals and putting things together, and they might be working with somebody like PFS Brands, where they've got the really great chicken programs that are going out there. How do you then take that information and you've got your e-commerce shoppers that are using picker devices and they're staging and doing all. How do you bypass having to use that team to do this little 2-piece chicken meal to get that done? Are there ways that I can place an order and I can bypass having to use my my e-com team to process those orders?
Yeah, with different fulfillment types, it's easily managed. So different groups of people could have different access levels. So they're just using the filters to say, I just want to look at the orders that came in for this specific fulfillment type. Or again, there's different ways using these department printers that we mentioned as well, where maybe there's just a person who's sending those orders over to another team. Even just forwarding to an email would allow someone to be able to manage that and not disturb the process that's going on with the personal shoppers picking groceries.
Yeah, I really like those department printers where you place a quick order and instead of it going through the team, it's just printing in that service counter and beeping, and somebody has to go over and push the buzzer and say, yeah, I got this. And so they're just doing their job, and they're not having to go and monitor some queue. They just listen for the beep, pick the piece of paper off, process that order, and that customer might be showing up in 5 minutes to be able to get it. So I know we only have a few minutes left. Beverly, I'd love to get your kind of final thoughts on, where are you guys with catering today, and where do you see your big opportunities? I know we talked a little bit about that already, but what really excites you about, growing catering for Buehler's?
Yeah, Brian. So we're just excited in general for the different opportunities. We plan to continue to market the Freshop platform and really try to grow just everything online catering related. Especially we're excited to see where we can do with our new cake page that we want to design. And we are even more excited to do some of the crossover type items. So deciding what items we can maybe take from our catering party trays, maybe some different circle subs, things like that, and maybe have those available on the e-commerce side, because we really are running those as two independent programs right now, but there's a lot of opportunity for crossover. We've started dabbling with it a little bit already. With everything with COVID-19, we had some different family bundles that we were rolling out in our deli department. And so we've had those available for the personal shoppers to pick up. And we were planning to do some more crossover with our bundle meals, having them both e-commerce and catering for the holidays this year. So I feel like there's just a lot of opportunity to grow everything and see how detailed and personalized we can get with our crossover items too, so that they're available on both sides of the platform.
Great. Well, Colleen, thanks for joining. And Beverly, really appreciate your time and your trust in Freshop. Honored to work with Buehler's and the other retailers that we've mentioned here today. So thank you again for your time. Mike, I'll turn it back over to you.
All right. Hey, thanks, Brian. Again, thank you, Beverly. Thank you, Colleen. This is great. Kind of makes me wish I lived in Ohio so I could shop at Buehler's and take advantage of the catering. Any of the questions that we didn't get to, Brian and the team can follow up with. But with that, we'll sign off and have a wonderful afternoon, everyone. Thank you.